Welcome students to online classes of mathematics for class 9th. In this video we are going to study chapter number 14, which is statistics of NCERT textbook, and we will be looking at the exercise 14.1. This one is session number 1 for this particular chapter. Myself Deepak Gautam, teaching mathematics in Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan. So let's start with today's class. The chapter number 14 statistics is divided into total 5 subtopics which are listed here. Out of which we are going to study today is the first two subtopics, which are introduction and the collection of data. Okay, so let's start with the introduction part. First, let's understand what do we mean by the term statistic. Okay, simply statistics is the branch of mathematics which deals with the collection, organization, analysis and interpretation of data. Okay, so statistics is a branch of mathematics, that means a part of mathematics which particularly deals with the collection of data, then reorganization of data, then we do analysis of data and then interpret some conclusion from it. Okay, so this branch of mathematics is called statistics. Okay, let's move ahead to the next subtopic, which is collection of data. In collection of data, first that what we have to understand is what is data. Okay, the data simply is the collection of information. Okay, if you are asked to define the data in simplest form, you can define it by saying just these three words, that is collection of information. Okay, collection of information is the data. Okay, and if you want to elaborate it, you can say the collection of information gathered for analysis and to draw some conclusion from it. Okay, so data is the collection information which is gathered for doing analysis and to draw some conclusion from it. Okay, for example, the data can be if you record the height of the students of your class. Okay, so this is one example, that is height of student of your class. There can be another example like number of members in the families of your classmates. Okay, then you can ask your each classmate how many members they have in your family, then record it. That will be another example of data. Okay, we have another example like number of vehicles in your cities. Okay, like you can choose a particular type of vehicle like two-wheeler or four-wheeler. Okay, so number of vehicles in a city, again you will get a certain number. That information will also be a data. Okay, so data is simply is collection of information which we gather for doing analysis and to gather some or to draw some conclusion from it. Okay, and we have few examples like height of the student, number of members in the family of a classmate and number of vehicles. Okay, there are many more such examples, like you can count. If you look at it, into your class, you can count the number of desks in each class. Okay, number of lights in a class, number of students in your class. Okay, number of boys and number of girls in your class. Okay, like this. And similarly, number of utensils in your home. Okay, or number of plants that you have at home. So these all information that you gather is the example of data. Okay, then we have types of data. Okay, basically we have two types of data. One is the primary data and secondary data. Okay, so two types of data are primary data and secondary data. So the first one is primary data, is the data which is collected or gathered by the investigator by herself or himself is called primary data. Okay, the information that we can collect by ourselves is called primary data. Okay, like if I ask you to get a record the data of the number of student in your class, then it's very simple task for you. You can just count the number of student, okay, present in your class, or you can also differentiate that between number of girls in your class and number of boys in your class. Okay, so this is the task which you can easily complete by yourself. Okay, like you can count the number of room in your house, number of classroom in your school. Okay, like that. So every data that you can collect by yourself, it's called primary data. Okay, then we have secondary data, which is the data which is collected or gathered from a source, that is that source can be government records or internet, is called secondary data. Okay, like we have some more example of the data. Suppose if I ask you to find out the population of any city. Okay, like if I say what is the population of Delhi. Okay, so for one individual it's very tough task to keep a record of number of people, that is population of the Delhi. Okay, or any other given city. Okay, so for this information from we rely on the government source. Okay, like government do census every 10 year, in which government records the number of people living in any city or any state or any area. Okay, so we can gather then get then information from the government record. Okay, like if you want to know how much medal India won in any given Olympic, like in 90-50. Okay, I don't know if there was Olympic or not. Let's say assume any year. So if you want to know the number of medals won by India, okay, so you can just refer to the internet, Google it, you will find the number of medals won by the India. So this information that you get from the internet is, this will be the secondary data, okay, which you are not collecting by yourself. Okay, it is collected by somebody else and they have made it available for public. Okay, so that everyone can use it. Okay, all such information or the data is called secondary data. Okay, so there are two types of data, one which we can collect by ourselves, and secondary data is for which we get from the government source or the internet, okay, or any other source. That means it's not primarily collected by ourselves, somebody else have collected this information or the data and they have it made it public so that other can also use. Okay, I hope you understood the difference between two, one which we collect by himself or the herself, or can say ourselves, and the second which we get from the other sources like government records on the internet. Okay, now based on this we have exercise 14.1. now let's see the exercise 14.1. The first question is exercise 14.1 is give 5 examples of data that you can collect from your day-to-day life. Okay, so we have to give 5 example of data which we can collect from our day-to-day life. Okay, I have written the 5 examples here. First one is the number of students in your class. Okay, that's a one example. Second is number of fans in our school. Okay, you can count number of fans by going in visiting each classroom and count. If there are 4, 5, 6 or 7 fans in each room, then add them. Okay, next is the electricity bill of our house for last 2 years. Okay, next is the election result obtained from television or newspaper, or literacy rate figure obtained from the education survey. Okay, I have just written 5 examples, you can write many more such examples. Okay, so these examples for just for your example. Okay, so that you can think of some more examples. Okay, so now next question is classify the data in question 1 as above as primary or the secondary data. Okay, so we have written certain information here, so now we have to categorize them as a primary data or the secondary data. That means data which we can collect by ourselves will comes under primary, and data which for which we have to rely on the other source will be called the secondary data. Okay, like first we have the number of students in class. That means it's a very easy task, we can count the number of students in our class, so this is comes under the primary data. Okay, this is one. Second is a number of fan in our school, so this can also be done by ourselves, so we can keep the record of this, so this will also be the example of primary data. Third is electricity bills of our house for last 2 years. Okay, so as we are receiving bills every month, so we can collect all those bill and see the data. Okay, so this can also come under the primary data. Okay, then we have election results obtained from television or newspapers. Okay, so like we have after election you may see the television or the newspaper publish the result, which candidate won in which locality and by how many vote. Okay, so we don't count the vote by ourselves, we rely for that information on the government. So that means this information comes under the secondary data. Okay, and the last one is literacy rate figure obtained from education survey is also comes under the secondary data. Okay, you can think many more such examples of primary or the secondary data, and you can classify them as the two category. Okay, so that's all for this exercise 14.1. I hope you understood the concept. Okay, so that's all for now. Thanks for joining here everyone. Thank you.